happen to only chromosome 21?
I'm glad you asked that question. Because there are some other trisomies that most people haven't heard of. And this is trisomy for Down syndrome is the physical syndrome that results from being trisomic for 21. There's some other ones that people don't hear about too much. There's Patau syndrome, which is, and you don't have to memorize these syndromes, right? Or what autosome trisomy causes it. But Patau and Edward syndrome are other syndromes where people are born with 3 copies of that chromosome. All right? And trisomy 13 and trisomy 18 are much more severe than trisomy 21. Trisomy 21, I think everybody knows somebody, a relative or whatever, who has Down syndrome. And the vast majority of people live happy, productive lives. And yeah, they suffer medical consequences. Their life is shorter, they have higher rates of heart disease, there's some cognitive deficits and things like that. But generally, they're super happy, well-adjusted people who have jobs and live good lives. Patau and Edwards, a little more dire. People tend to die very, very young from these, usually like close to birth or within a few years of birth. So they're much more serious. And I went through and color-coded the various trisomies naturally in accordance with our Homeland Security alert system, where green is if you have different numbers of sex chromosomes, that means no problem. Here, if you have an extra copy of it, red means totally inviolable. All right? You may be born, but you're going to die almost instantly. And then 13 and 18, you can be born and you might live a few years, but it's pretty serious medical consequences. And then 21, yellow, because, yeah, you live a long life, but it is shorter and you do have medical complications. Yeah?
What about 9?
9 is also one that I don't remember the name of a syndrome associated with it, but I looked it up and there are recorded live births for 9. I just don't recall the name of the syndrome associated with it. Yes?
Is there also, when you are short of chromosomes, you only get one pair instead of like 2 or 3, you get 1?
Some of us only have one X chromosome. And
I mean, like,
no, I know, I'm kidding. As far as I know, no. I haven't heard of monosomy and a disorder associated with it. I think that it might be fatal to be in that state, unless it is for a sex chromosome. Yeah.
Why these? Why not every one of them? Are these just stickier than the others, or like why are these the only recorded ones and not every single one, and every single one having a different genetic result because of it?
It's a great question. What's your intuition?
Others may not really have an effect.
They may not have an effect, or why else might you never see babies born with trisomy 1 and trisomy 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7?
All the more instant deaths.
Yeah, probably because not that trisomy doesn't occur, and this is a hypothesis, but that if it does occur, its effect is so dire on development that the embryo never develops to term. So when you think about it, these chromosomes, this chromosome has 250 million letters and 3,000 genes on it. If you get a whole extra dose of that, you just don't develop properly, right? And for some of these other chromosomes, because of their size, the type of genes that are on them, development can proceed well enough that they can be born.
That actually makes sense. Most of the ones are closer to the bottom. Most of the ones are the smaller ones.
Yeah, and that's just a rough trend here, right? But yeah, you don't see trisomies for these larger chromosomes, and it's probably not because they don't occur. It's probably just that there are conceptions, but those conceptions go way off course in development, way before you even know they exist. Yeah.
Do we know if this can happen in other organisms, like animals and stuff?
I'll get to that at the end of the talk today. But the answer is yes, it can occur, and it does occur. And that's kind of a neat thing to think about, is that all of this it's just, I mean, you saw the video of mitosis occurring, right? And it kind of mirrors what happens during meiosis. And it's kind of it's a physical process, right? Things are being pulled apart and dragged across the cell. And yeah, it doesn't always go in the typical way. And these syndromes are at least in part the result of that. So one of the questions was about whether this occurs only in females. And one of the things and I believe that this chart is actually off, and it underrepresents how frequent Down syndrome is. But I think most people are familiar with the idea that if you're an older mother, the risks of having a Down syndrome kid go way, way up. And I think most people are aware of that. So if you're in your 20s, if you're in your teens, 20s, early 30s, the incidence of Down syndrome is low. 1 in 1,000, 1 in 10,000 births or something like that. I think close to about a 1 in 10,000. As you get older as a female, especially into your late 40s, maybe early 50s, before menopause, the incidence of Down syndrome can go up to like 1 in 10. I mean, so it's a serious risk, a 1 in 10 chance of having a Down syndrome kid. And the reason for that is that we're not going to memorize all the terminology of the ovary here, okay? But I just wanted to show, actually I don't even know why I have this thing. When you're born as a female, you're born with these cells that are called oocytes, and they're the cells that give rise to egg cells. And the primary oocyte is an oocyte that's in an arrested state early in meiosis before any of the divisions have taken place. And so that cell is in your ovary when you're born, and it stays there until you go through puberty and you start ovulating and releasing 1 or 2 eggs at a time. And so literally a cell sits there in this state of suspended animation waiting for its turn to be stimulated to actually develop, make an egg that can be released. And so we think that something about the process of division, of having a cell in this arrested state for so long, is what causes the higher incidence of Down syndrome and trisomies in general in older mothers. And in males, you're continuously generating sperm throughout your life, and so you don't really have this problem of a cell just waiting for that entire time. So that's one of the hypotheses about why Down syndrome incidence goes way up with females. Yeah?
Okay, so with females, yeah, the Down syndrome, and like it's sort of like common-esque knowledge, but and you said with males that you just continuously, but then why would autism, though, with males, goes up
Yeah.
with age? Like, or is that just a whole other...
I would say, obviously this isn't the field that I work in, but I would say that they don't, most likely they don't yet know exactly why paternal age influences autism rates. But age of parents is, like, the older the parents, the higher the incidence of autism. And maybe it has to do with epigenetic effects, accumulation of mutations, but probably epigenetics is what I've heard is the most likely, like changes in gene expression throughout your lifetime. But yeah, it's a fascinating thing.
Yeah.
And there's some real complexities to that, and some studies have found sort of contradictory results about, the effect of paternal age is dependent on maternal age and autism, and the older the father, if it's a young mother, there isn't effect, but if it's an older mother, there is an effect, and it's all super up in the air at this point.
Autism's a hot topic right now.
Autism is a hot topic, yeah. So the other thing that's kind of cool is that trisomy isn't just the result of meiosis. You can also have mitotic trisomy. And so I've diagrammed here a mitotic division that results in a trisomic cell. So take a look at this. Just give you a moment to check it out.